if you're thinking like, oh, I don't have the budget for an electric bike right now, you can do the non-electric and add a kit. If you think you don't have the budget though, like really think about it and look at what the cost over time is, because sometimes that $5,000 bike seems like kind of a budget breaker up front. But if you divide that out over 5 years, that's $1,000 a year, which is less than $100 a month. So yeah, options abound for sure. I'm not going to get into too much technical detail, but like mid-drive kits from Bafang are an option to add on. But I always think that pre-built bikes, electric bikes, are always going to be better, because the brakes of the bike are set up to really like stop you when your bike is 300 pounds with all the stuff on it. Like the bike is fully considered. So honestly, that's kind of my spiel about e-bikes generally. There are varying levels of electric assist that when you go into a bike shop, they'll kind of run through with you how much torque, how much wattage, how big a battery. Like you can get very, very technical with things, but doing a test ride and understanding what you're carrying is going to be the best way to figure out what the best thing is for you. Yeah. Does that, I'm hoping that gives everyone like a little bit of background on e-bikes. I was just like thrown into the pool here. And I am going to start talking about front loading cargo bikes if y'all are ready. Yeah, cool. Let's see. I just need to share my screen. Is that working, Ellie? Okay, there we go. This is Carl Farner. He's probably 20 years old now. This is him reading How to Live Well Without Owning a Car, which I think is a pretty magical title for a book. So Todd Farner was my former business partner, and he and his wife did not own a car. They rode cargo bikes. He used to live in San Francisco and developed an electric assist for a mid-tail cargo bike. And Carl was just sort of part of the whole thing. So anyways, my name is Eva Frazier, if I didn't already introduce myself. In case you're wondering what I look like, I'm the one in the middle. This is an inflatable T-Rex costume, which I may or may not recommend as a thing you should wear while riding a bicycle. Safety third is always our saying at the shop. So Clever Cycles, where I until recently worked, I should tell you I'm retired as of a month ago. Clever Cycles was started in 2007 with the idea that Dutch bikes could really like change the landscape of the US cycling market. We started in the summer of 2007 by importing a container of cargo bikes. And so as you can see, the Bach feeds here on the lower right corner, Bach feeds and city bikes from the Netherlands. So at that point in time, there was really like a dearth of quality in the transportation market in the US. We were all sort of making do with road and hybrid bikes with toe peak baby seats and like burly trailers, right? And those things work well, but if you really really don't want to drive a car in an American city where distances are a little further, Bach feet were the answer, or we felt they were the answer. So it turned out that 2007 was actually really good timing with the recession and gas prices being quite high. People were turning to bicycles as transportation. So I joined the shop in 2010. This is actually not a bicycle that one should ever ride, but this is a mashup of a Bach feet on the left and what was called the Extra Cycle Free Radical on the right. So the Free Radical was sort of a way to add on to a standard bike and turn it into a long tail. The Bach feet was just this magical, I should say Bach feet means box bike in Dutch. It's nothing fancy. So this is what you shouldn't do, but this is sort of what Clever Cycles was doing in the early days when I started there in 2010. We imported our first Urban Arrow in 2014. It was spec'd with a Bosch mid-drive, and Bosch at that point in time had not yet established a presence in the USA, but we were able to get them and import them in from the Netherlands. So this was like a huge game changer from what used to be what felt like the early days of computers, where if you didn't know how to work on it yourself, you didn't know what you were doing, right? So Urban Arrow was this purpose-built object that could get you from point A to B. You didn't really need to know anything about bicycles other than how to pedal. So I'm gonna talk about electric mostly because I feel like these are the bikes that are car replacement. But if you really don't have much of a budget, like you can make do with a regular bike with a trailer, with racks, with all of that. Like a cargo bike is really any bike. So there's a few questions that I always ask folks. Hang on, sorry, I have to let some people into the waiting room. A few questions that I always ask folks. Storage is one of the biggest things with front-loading cargo bikes. So do you have space to store it? Garages, sheds, work. A tarp will work in a pinch, but yeah, these bikes are big. And there's certainly some solutions in the mid-tail and long-tail category that take up less space. So always something that I like to ask people up front, do you have space to store it? Because it is 9 feet long and 3 feet wide. Another question I like to ask is just what are you doing with it? Obviously, you're probably not doing what Emily Finch is doing on the left here. She has 4 kids in the bucket, 1 kid on the back rack, and actually 2 kids hanging off the back of that bike over there. So kid carrying is probably one of the biggest things that people are doing with cargo bikes, but certainly you can do cargo, you can do dogs, whatever, but accessories, you're going to want to think about what you're carrying and what sort of accessories enable you to do that. We already talked a little bit about this, but I really do feel that if you're getting a front-loading cargo bike, electric is the way to go. You're going to use it more, and honestly, maybe you can just donate your car to NPR. Sorry, this is a lot of words. But these are the reasons that I think front-loading cargo bikes are magic. One is just that loading is super duper easy. You know, you're just relying on gravity. So you can throw the groceries in there, kids can climb in. It's just simple. The other reason, especially if you're carrying a lot of stuff, is you've got a lower center of gravity. You've got all of your things are a foot or 2 off the ground instead of up over your back wheel. So the weight is going to be lower center of gravity and really well distributed between that front and that rear wheel. It does seem counterintuitive that this bike is going to be more stable than a bike that looks like something you're used to, but really when you get these loaded up, they ride like a dream. For parents out there, honestly, kids love being in the bucket of a cargo bike. And honestly, I love being in the bucket of the cargo bike. It's pretty magical. You get the best view. You're kind of low to the ground. It feels like you're in a movie. You're starring in a movie. And then one last thing, kickstands, which Clever Cycles is a big fan of kickstands. And the kickstand that comes on a cargo bike is pretty much always going to be super stable, super supportive, and wonderful. The other reason you want to pick a front-loading cargo bike is that you can pretty much carry anything. Bromptons, I've got that middle one there is a sick iMac on the way to the doctor. And then I've got like 7 cases of beer over there. No problem. Certainly kid carrying is one of the biggest reasons that you might pick a front-loading cargo bike. But like I was saying before, you want to look and see what kind of accessories do you need. In Portland, it rains. In Minnesota, it snows. Getting that cargo cover is great. Getting a flat cover if you're just putting stuff in it. Getting benches and seat belts for your kiddos. Picking a rear rack, all that jazz. If your bike comes from the Netherlands, it's probably already going to come with fenders and a rack, chain guard, bell, kickstand, lights, all that good stuff. You might be able to carry Granny too. Just a little hiccup here. Okay, so we got Granny, and certainly there's some options here. These are the brands of cargo bikes that a lot of the shops carry in the US. I know that Perennial and JC Lind are both doing maybe not all of these, and then Katharine is definitely doing Reese and Mueller over at Kindred. Urban Arrow, we're all big Urban Arrow fans. It's a Dutch bike, it's comfortable, it's upright, and really easy to just get in and ride. The Super Cargo is a little more sporty, a little tighter turning radius with the cable steering. And also this is one of the options. You can get a front loader bike without electric assist. And then in the Reese and Mueller, this is just like the butteriest, smoothest ride, front and rear suspension, customizable, all that stuff. I did want to just list off some other brands that are out there, either from the past or from current day. Larry versus Harry is a big one in the US. Setma and Metro Feats were both Portland-based steel bikes that were available before. And then Dews is French. You got the Cabby from Holland and the Trek Fetch, which honestly I've never ridden, but might be available in your market. I just want to tell you, I get it. It's hard. Picking a cargo bike is really hard. Working through that budget, working through all the research, but go to a bike shop if you can, test ride other bikes if you can, and really think about how this is going to pay for itself very quickly. Anyways, thanks. Come visit Clever Cycles if you've got the time, if you're in the neighborhood, and I'm going to pass this on to Katharine.
Hey, thanks so much, Eva. I'm Katharine, and I am coming to you from Kindred Cycles in Pittsburgh. I'll be talking about the opposite end of the cargo bike size range, the compact cargo bikes, mid-tails, short tails, basically the smallest of the cargo bikes. Although they're small, this is still our most popular category. Like Eva was saying, if you're looking to carry 2 or 3 kids, you're probably going to need a bigger bike than these cargo or these compact options. If you're looking to carry a solo passenger or just expand your carry capacity of your current commuter bike, it's going to be a very nice, smaller, more manageable option. Like Eva was saying, if you don't have a great storage solution, these certainly store in a more compact way than a front loader will. But they exceed what you can do with a standard commuter bike. A standard commuter bike rack like this will usually carry up to about 50 pounds of gear. When I'll be talking specifically about Turner, our most popular brand in this category, their rear racks have a rating of between 130 to 170 pounds on some of the newer models. It's really great if you're looking to take a kid, from the smallest age all the way up to like baseball practice at 10 or 11. Maybe at that point, they'll start taking it to school or to their own practices or lessons. Leading away from, paired with that, height ranges. These bikes are great from riders about 4'11" all the way up to 6'5", so they're easily shared within a household. Not exclusive to households with kids, right? Like I don't have kids. This is my personal HSD. It's a huge part of how I use my bike, how my wife uses the bike, and how we're able to use the car less in our day-to-day travels and transport. So while we have a kid seat here, this could be used for a small passenger, small adult, or small kid. And, we can use this thing to go out and have fun or get to work. It's also my rainy day bike. It's got fenders, it's got lights, and it also has accessories like locks and bags you can get built in. So you're looking to expand the range, of your bike. Maybe you're looking to pack more into your day. You picked up a class at the community college, you're doing pottery across town. You really want to do more by bicycle, less by car. A lot of our customers either don't have a car or just try to really minimize the use. As we were saying with electric stuff, and you think about a long day going to work, doing something after that. These bikes have been really, really integral for commuters looking to expand. And then on the flip side of that, turning people into cycling commuters. So we've got some folks that never thought that they could commute by bicycle, either because of the hills or the distance or the weather. And, if you add the carry capacity of the rear rack, we can take everything you need, as well as the electric assist to get you there. It really broadens the horizons of what you're able to do by bicycle. For some of the accessories that are our favorites, Turn makes a rear pannier for these little guys. It's a 28-liter pannier, so that greatly exceeds what you can do with like an Ortlieb bag, although I still use Ortlieb's packed 4 on this little rack, so that's really not a bad option as well if you are a commuter who wants to carry over as many of the things you're already using in your day-to-day life. In terms of adjustability for height, the saddle as it goes up, the angles the bike takes, it allows the bike to get bigger with the rider, not only putting the post up, but also the handlebar and making that reach longer. So you get a true good fit in a very wide height range. Outside of that, headlights. Some of the bikes also have high beams. Some of them have horns. These guys really get pretty sophisticated. And they also start with the least amount of bells and whistles if you're, not so much on the technical side of things. And, why you may then not be looking at a compact cargo bike, if you are looking to carry more than one kid, more than 130 pounds of stuff, that's when you could be looking at a long tail. And that's for you, Luke.
Awesome. Hey, thanks. Thanks for being here. I'm Luke. My wife and I own Perennial Cycle in Minneapolis. We've been in the uptown neighborhood of Minneapolis for 30 years now. We are big on cargo bikes, have a lot of bikes in the shop. You're able to come in and test ride any of the bikes that have been discussed today by Eva or by Katharine, or now I'll be talking about Longtails. You can just stop by the shop to do test rides and talk about the bikes. You can also set up an appointment. If it's a big investment, if you made the appointment, it would be helpful because we'd be more prepared for you. We'd be sure someone was here able to answer your questions. If you go to our website, one of the first links you'll see is for appointments, and you're going to choose sales, not service. Though if you're thinking about a tune-up, we're getting closer to spring. Now would be the time to make that appointment as well. So I'm here to talk about long-tail cargo bikes. Katharine was talking about mid-tails. Kind of the big distinguishing feature for me, from what I can see, mid-tails are always going to be limited to one child. So if we just look at it as a family bike, mid-tails, awesome bikes, nice and compact and small, but limited. You know, they're not going to handle as much weight, and they're not going to handle 2 kids. They're going to handle 1 kid very, very well. So they're great at that. Really good second cargo bike for a family that might be thinking about that. If you're thinking about a true like car replacement, minivan replacement, Longtail is a great way to go. Longtails are, for us, they're kind of the workhorse of the cargo bike world. They're pretty simple, they're easy to ride, and yet their capacity is massive. And with the accessories that are available for them, they can do a lot. And we are not selling Longtails strictly to families. The majority are families, but we have sold them to businesses. We've sold them to individuals that just simply don't have a car. And so they need to be able to pick up 5 bags of groceries, which is completely doable with a Longtail cargo bike. And so as the name would imply, it's just simply a little longer on the back end of the bike. And the extra length really helps as far as stability with the weight. Also something that most of the bikes that are Longtails have smaller rear wheels. The reason for that is to try and keep the weight low, so that there's less influence. So when the kids move around on the back, they're going to move you around less. So having that weight low is awesome. Eva talked about front loaders. Front loaders put it as low as possible. So as she pointed out, it seems kind of counterintuitive that those front loaders are so stable, but it's really about where that weight lies. And if you can get that weight low around the axles of the bike, all the better. So Longtails, yeah, the weight is quite low because they're using smaller rear wheels as a way to make that happen. There's kind of 2 things that I'm kind of big on you kind of considering or having at the front of your brain when you're shopping for, and actually it doesn't matter any of the bikes, but in this case, it's the Longtails. You need to be comfortable on the bike. Even if you're getting a non-electric bike, it's going to cost a lot of money. There's no way around it. The electric bikes or the cargo bikes are not inexpensive. And so you want to be sure that you love it. It fits you really well. You're comfortable on it. You're stable on it. You know, it's just going to get a little bit harder when you start adding weight. Mind you, you'll get better and better at it. And so that kind of evens itself out. But right away, you gotta get a handle for the bike and get comfortable on it. I will say, you know, you're trying new bikes that are completely different style than what you're used to, and maybe you've never ridden an electric, and now you're shopping electric. It's hard to say this bike is the perfect bike for me, and this is the one I'm taking home. That rarely happens, but it absolutely happens that you ride something and it's like, that did not work for me. I did not feel as stable as I did on that other bike. And so you can slowly start kind of picking away at it and trying to narrow things down, because it's always like shopping for anything. It's always going to be about kind of picking what's going to make the most sense for you. Not everything's there's not going to be a ton of perfect choices for you. The other thing that's really important to look at and kind of get a handle on is the accessories for the bike. The cargo bikes alone, typically they're just kind of big, heavy bikes. They're not necessarily the most practical bikes, and then you put the accessories on it for using it the way that you had in mind, and all of a sudden it's like this amazing, amazing bicycle that does so much for you. So you do have to kind of be thinking about, okay, how am I going to use the bike? That's going to influence what type of accessories you're looking for. If you are lucky enough to be in Pittsburgh, Chicago, Minneapolis, or Portland, you're blessed, because you will be able to just walk into a shop and you will get 90% of the information you need in one 45-minute visit to the shop. It helps so much if you're able to talk to, like you're listening right now, hearing us that have a lot of experience. I mean, yesterday I had 3 families come in for test rides. So that's a lot of experience that I'm gaining every single day when I'm dealing with people. And I definitely have ideas about what the best accessory package may be. If you don't have one of the shops nearby, and so you're in an area without a cargo bike shop anywhere nearby, I will say the brands that we're selling, they all have really good websites, and they make it really clear what accessories work on what bikes. And so you can definitely do it yourself. It's just going to take a lot of time, and there's going to be a little bit of guessing involved, but you'll still be able to get yourself to the end. Long tails, you're going to deal with the fit, you're going to deal with the packages. Really practical bikes. I've got several bikes set up just to show you how different bikes get set up. And so I'm going to move on to showing you some bikes. I will start right here. I've got a bike called a Riesenmuller. Eva talked about Riesenmuller. They do a beautiful front loader. This is a long tail that they did called the Multi-Tinker. One thing worth noting, this front rack does not move with the handlebars. A rack like this, in different shapes and such, but racks like that are mounted onto the frame, they're available for all of our long tails and mid tail bikes. It is a great place to put weight because we've got a lot on the back end of the bike. Normally we're a little bit afraid of putting weight up front because it influences the handling, whereas in this case, it's mounted to the frame. You can safely put a pretty heavy load on the front of any of the mid-tail and long tails. This bike right now is set up with the wraparound bars on back. So kids could be sitting here, right here, and we still have lots of space for groceries in the bags like that. This is sitting here right now, say we had a 5 and a 7-year-old, they would fit very nicely on the back here. If you needed a car seat, it's just a matter of adjusting the pads and putting a car seat or child seat on the back. They are very modular, but that's just one setup. This bike here is the Turn GSD. This is our biggest selling long tail cargo bikes. And long tail cargo bikes are the biggest category in the cargo bike world that we sell. GSD, nice, easy step through there. Very adaptable and a lot of accessories available. So however you're planning on using it, you probably can. One of the big pluses of Turn is the Andro system. If we turn these levers up, we can change the ergonomics of the bike. So being able to fit, as Katharine was talking about, someone that's say 5 foot all the way up to someone 6'5", we're going to be able to not just get the seat height right, we're going to be able to play with their handlebar position. Every once in a while I get asked about how to transport a cargo bike. It is not great, not easy. But I will say Turn has thought that out pretty well. When we turn the handlebars around, it shortens it up a little bit, and then we're able to use this Andro system to bring that down. And so if I remove the seat post and I put those bars down, I can fit it into a lot of vehicles. I have put it into a Honda Fit before. That one I couldn't have a passenger. The HSD that Katharine was talking about, that is fit into a Honda Fit with the passenger seat still available. So this is set up right now with the handlebars on the back. So say we've got a 7-year-old sitting right here, and then the child seats like this. We're expecting the kids to be in it from 1 year up to about 5 years old. If it's your oldest child, they might be willing to sit in it longer than 5 years old. But if it's a younger child, then they see brother or sister not in the child seat and they want to get out. They don't want the straps on. I got another bike here called the Yuba Spicy Curry. Spicy Curry, or the Yuba brand, they like the feel of that larger front wheel. And so this is kind of a unique setup in that we've got the 26-inch front wheel, the larger front wheel, and the smaller rear wheel. You need the smaller rear wheel, like I was saying, to keep the weight as low as possible. Anyway, it's an interesting setup. If you are trying to fit 3 kids, and usually we're going to be talking about front loaders when it's 3 kids, because the long tails, they do 2 really well, but it is possible in a pinch, especially. Spicy Curry is the longest of the bikes. Mind you, there's a downside to that, and with the bigger wheel and with the extra length, it is also a bigger bike to fit into the garage. I will note, as far as riding it, there's no concern at all. It's the extra length is not something you're really going to be feeling on the road. This is a Turn GSD. I wanted to just show the storm shield. So this is a shield that goes up on the top. And so the kids are protected from the wind. There is also a storm box. So there can be a box under, it's fabric, but a box underneath, so the kids are completely enclosed. And the storm box is not only about kids. The storm box, some people get it just simply to be able to load the bike with things. So that is kind of the long tails that I wanted to show you. I've got a few other bikes over here that I'm just going to point out to you real quick, just because they were in the store, and I thought the more kind of setups you can see, the better. So I'm going to come over here. By the way, we love the Carla Cargo trailer. If some of you are on that aren't looking for family stuff, thinking about business stuff, Carla Cargo is pretty awesome. This right here, this is going to be new bike day pickup on Tuesday. Annie bought this. They have a baby that's going to be 1 in May, so they're ahead of the curve a little bit. They're ready. Typically, it's about 1 year old that babies are that we're comfortable putting babies up front. Always good to talk to your pediatrician about that. But anyway, that's that there is the Fast Track. This is not a kid. This is 2 adults, 2 young adults that own this bike. And one of the adults is often riding on the back. Obviously, they're set up for groceries as well. But this is a way, if you had an older child, you know, not feeling quite as constrained as maybe the wraparound bars. This is a little bit unique in that this is a Spicy Curry called a Spicy Curry AT. It's got a class 3 motor, which means it's a little bit faster. And it is using a suspension fork. It's using a suspension seat post. It's got some knobby tires. It's going to be something that could be taken out on the trail or just seen as a little bit more multi-use. And so that's available. Okay, that is what I got. I will be on for the Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them into the chat, or if you're in Minneapolis, which there are a lot of you out there that are from Minneapolis, that's awesome. Feel free to come on in. Next presenter is Emily. Emily lives not too far from the shop. Emily's a customer of ours. A year ago right now, if I understand right, Emily did not even have a cargo bike on her radar at all. And now she's got a few thousand miles on a cargo bike. So, and Emily, just so you know, John has been able to get back in with us. So you'll be passing it on to John when you're done.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. My name's Emily, and I'm mom to 3 boys, ages 7, 5, and 2. So I'm going to start out by showing you some pictures so you can get a visual of what we have going on. So here's our, oh, can you go back to the, there we go. Here's our urban arrow. We've got the rain cover, and we leave that on all year round. It's really nice. It blocks a little bit of the sun for us, and then it keeps the cold out. We roll the flaps down in the winter or in the fall. There's all 3 kids in the front. They we had just gotten back from picking everybody up from school. You can see my little name tag in the front there for the pickup line. And I always have the one in the blue shirt is Jude, my oldest. He sits closest to me because he's the heaviest. And then Milo, the baby, is next to him because the seats here have the better over the shoulder seat belts, a little more secure. And then Will, the middle child, sits, we got the extra bench, and that just has a lap belt. So he sits further away from me, and that's how we usually ride. And then in the next one, here they are just having a good time. They can get in and out themselves. And you'll see we also have a seat in the back. So that gives us a lot of flexibility. Both the 2-year-old and the 5-year-old can fit in the baby seat if people need a little space from each other. Or here we've strapped a backpack in. So it just gives us a little more, some more options. Can you skip to the next one? Here's me in the carpool line. One of my kids goes to a school that is not super bike friendly. It's right off a highway. Nobody else bike commutes, but I'm very happy to be setting the trend. We found some back streets to get there, so we don't have to go on any super high traffic spots, and I just zip along with all the cars. Next to that, here we're stopped in front of a train, which is just kind of fun for the kids to get to see close up. Go to the next one, please. Here's Milo asleep in the front, and all 3 kids in the bucket again. I've got the cell phone case there, and I have a rear view mirror too, both of which are awesome and very useful for accessories. Can you skip ahead, please? Yeah, I especially like the baby seat for Milo. When we first got the bike, he had just turned 2, so that felt really nice and secure, but his favorite place to ride is the front. So now he pretty much always does that. And there's me. That's with the day we rode it home from the shop. Very exciting. Okay, are there any more after that? Oh, that's right. Okay, this is our setup in the garage. We have just enough space to tuck it in along the wall next to the car, which is awesome. And then I lock it to a kettlebell just to kind of provide a little extra security so it would be harder to steal out of the garage. And I have a plug-in right there, which works really great. It charges so fast. It's amazing. And here I put my friend in the front and rode her around the block just for fun because I wanted to see if adults could ride in it too, and they can. Okay, so that's all my pictures. I'm going to talk to you about my first experience with it. I saw some other kids coming, getting picked up at preschool on cargo bikes, and I thought that looks so cool. I wish I could do that, but I have too many kids, so there's no way. But then a few weeks later, Luke was actually at our school doing test rides. So I went and chatted with him, and he said there are a few options that can handle 3 kids. And he happened to have the Urban Arrow there. So I decided to give it a try. And I had not been on a bike at all for over 10 years. So this is my first time riding on anything in a long time. And I get on this thing and I have the most wobbly, awkward ride down the sidewalk. You can't see the front wheel because it's under the bucket. And that was freaking my brain out. So I'm overcorrecting and going back and forth and look like I barely know how to ride a bike. And I'm thinking, okay, this is awful, but maybe I can go into the shop and find something else that would work better. So I do go into the shop and I end up visiting 5 separate times. Luke was incredibly kind and patient with me. I tried every possible configuration. I tried different bikes. I had it down to the Yuba Spicy Curry and the Urban Arrow. I tried it with 3 kids, 2 kids, 1 kid, no kids. And the more and more I practiced, I realized I actually did like the Urban Arrow better than I had initially thought. I started to get the hang of it a little bit and decided to take the plunge with that one. So we took it home and we took it out on our first ride, just a 1-mile ride to take my oldest to his tutoring appointment. It wasn't too bad, but when we got there, I had the most difficult time with locking it up. I tried to attach it to a bench, but the chain was too short. And then I tried to back it out and bring it in a different angle. And I was having trouble moving it because the bike is pretty heavy and I hadn't built up the strength yet to work with it. And I was getting stressed that we were going to be late for our appointment. So finally, I just muscled the whole thing over and got it locked up. So by the time we're home from this tiny 2-mile ride, my back is so sore and stiff. And I'm thinking, oh man, what is this? This is not good. So I took a break for a week, came back to it, kept practicing, and things started to get easier and better. And then kind of a big leap forward for us was when my oldest had a 4-week-long summer camp that was 5 miles away. I figured, let's just go for it. That's longer than I really expected to use it for, but let's give it a try. So now I'm doing over 10 miles a day, and I start to really get more comfortable and have a good time with it. So now in the fall, I have 2 kids going to 2 separate schools, and the round trip to drop everybody off is 11 miles. So if I do that twice a day for drop off and pickup, and I do that all 5 days a week, all of a sudden I'm doing over 100 miles a week on the bike, which was so amazing. I actually sometimes needed to take some breaks from the bike to let my fitness catch up with me, but it did. Of course, we were often leaving later than we planned because 3 little kids needing to get ready is always a challenge. So it often ended up being more of a sprint 5-mile workout in the morning instead of a leisurely ride, but we made it on time most of the time. Thank goodness for turbo mode. Now to answer some potential questions that you might have. Did the kids like it? They love it. They almost always choose the bike when given the option between the bike and the car, and they love sitting in the front. Do they fight? Yes, of course they do sometimes, but it's not too bad. Sometimes they need to be reminded not to shove each other, not to dance back and forth like this so they don't throw off my balance, although I can handle that so much better now than before. But usually once we get going, they really settle in and really enjoy it. We're always listening to music when we go, so it feels like a really good time. What conditions do we ride in? I feel like anything mid-30s and above has been pretty comfortable. We can get the kids in their winter gear and roll those flaps down. We have nice thin wool hats that we could fit under our helmets, and we're good to go. I decided we weren't going to go on ice and snow this year, but we're having this bizarre heat wave. So we've had it out again in January and February, just the past couple of weeks, and it's been really fun. On super hot days, the breeze helps because we're going pretty fast. So that keeps people comfortable too. What about family rides? Sometimes we like to go out with me and the 2-year-old in the urban arrow, and then my oldest rides his bike on the sidewalk. We're on the street, he's on the sidewalk, and then my middle likes to ride his scooter. So he'll ride along for a while and then he'll inevitably get tired. And then we get to just dump him into the bike, which is very convenient. His scooter fits in too. How much can we fit in there? A lot. We've done all 3 kids, which is over 100 pounds, plus 6 bags of groceries. We've done carpooling with an additional child. We've done all 3 kids plus their school bags, their winter gear, blankets. And I really love about this particular bike that you can just kind of dump whatever you need in there and you don't have to think too carefully about strapping everything down. So just like a minivan, it can hold most of what you need. We load the people first, and then we just get all the stuff on top of them, and the kids are pretty tolerant of it too. It's worked very well. How fast do you go? If I'm going at a pretty good clip, that's not quite all out on turbo mode on a pretty decent flat surface, I usually go around 18 miles an hour, and kind of the fastest speed that I'm comfortable with on a downhill that's pretty smooth without a lot of cars around is about 27 miles per hour. So we're really flying sometimes, but I feel totally in control. We have not had any crashes. What were some of the learning curve challenges? At first, my stops were really jerky. My gear shifting was very choppy. Getting the hang of locking it up, like I said, took me some practice. Initially, I was pretty nervous. I wasn't used to going that fast, so I'd be all hunched up and tense, which of course makes balancing a bit harder. I'd be hanging onto those handlebars for dear life, and I would either skip signaling or just like do the quickest little arm signal. And I mentally forgave any cyclist I had ever been annoyed with in the past or in the future for not signaling, because I realized maybe they were scared to let go of their bike like I was. But now with lots of practice, I can signal all the way around robin. I can lean into turns. I can weave around potholes and bumps. I went from needing the walk assist function on the motor just to walk the empty bike on flat ground to being able to push it fully loaded up a hill. So that was really cool to realize I had made that progress. To sum up, we're really glad that we ended up taking the plunge. This was a huge decision. It's the biggest purchase we've ever made outside of our house and our car. So it was pretty scary, but it takes something pretty tedious, commuting, and magically turns it into not just getting people where they need to go, but it's exercise, fresh air, vitamin D, and actually a lot of pleasant social interactions with intrigued onlookers. I mean, we are frequently having people roll down their windows in traffic to compliment the bike or say, hey, that's so cool. And people are asking to take pictures of it. People come up in the park all the time to ask us about it. So it's pretty fun. Also at the school drop off and pickup lines, we feel kind of like celebrities, especially with the rain cover. It looks like a spaceship, so it gets a lot of attention. And as cheesy as it sounds, incorporating this bike into our lives has added so much joy for me personally, and for the kids. It's really impacted our family culture and allowed us to lean into our values of being outside and moving our bodies and being together. And I'm so proud of myself for taking this leap and mastering a new skill. And I'm happy to be able to share that with you. So that's our story. And I'm going to pass it over to John now.
Thank you, Emily. It's so encouraging, and it's beautiful to hear those things. And as shops, we get so much motivation from our customers who are just like you. And it means everything to have you out riding and sort of showing people how it's done, and helping motivate other people to join in. So thank you so much. Hey everyone, I'm John Lind. I'm the owner of J.C. Lind Bike Co. in Chicago. Very excited to be a part of this event today, and I appreciate all the work that Luke and Ellie and everyone put into organizing it. So thank you very much. My shop, as I mentioned, is J.C. Lind Bike Co. We've been selling European city and family cargo bikes since we opened, which was about 16 years ago. I got my start after spending a little bit of time living for a few years in the Netherlands, which, of course, is sort of transportation cycling heaven. And I'm going to talk briefly today about choosing where to buy a cargo bike. There's immense value in the relationship that develops between the cargo bike owner and the cargo bike shop. The journey to owning your first cargo bike, I like to break it down into 3 parts. The first part is pre-sales, the second part is the sale itself, and then the last part is the after post sale. And the local bike shop is going to have your back throughout the entire journey. On the pre-sale, they're going to take the time to get to know you and understand your needs. They're going to take a deep dive with you into all the options and decisions. Think about everything you've been hearing on this presentation so far: electric versus non-electric, which style of bike, whether it's front loader or not, and really help you determine which one makes the most sense for you and your family. They're going to answer as many questions as you can throw at them. And of course, you're going to have a lot, and that's great. And they're likely also going to ask you a good number of questions back, in the process. So it's going to be a sort of a back and forth. For the fun part, they're going to give you a chance to test ride the various cargo bikes and talk about your feedback after you've tried the bikes. They're going to consult on accessories. which ones are sort of critical out of the gate that you will need to get what you want to get done, and also which ones you can think about and know about for down the road. They're going to talk about things like bike storage, bike security, might even delve into topics like route planning based on where you live and plan to be riding if you're new into biking in the area you live in. Ultimately, the shop's goal is going to be to help you make a smart, confident, and informed purchase decision. For the second part, which is the sale itself, once you've determined which bike or combination of bike and accessories is the right one for you, they're going to help by getting it ordered, receiving it, unboxing it, professionally assembling it, and test riding it before, to make sure everything is working properly. When your new bike day arrives, they're going to spend as much time as necessary to introduce you to your new bike, make sure you feel good about how everything operates. They're going to provide, do any necessary fit adjustments on the bike before you set off. Spend some time consulting on best practices for things like bike security, of course, the e-bike systems, and discussing e-bike battery care with you. They're going to go over some of the basics like general maintenance, some things, like tire inflation, one of the most critical things you as the owner, need to take care of. They're going to discuss the service intervals and when you should expect to need to bring your bike in for its first service. On the post sales, after you've ridden off with your new e-bike, they're going to have your back if anything goes wrong in the bike to take care of it, and if necessary, provide warranty support. The follow-up service is key. A good local bike shop, they're going to get to know you and your bike, and they're going to keep your bike on the road with dedicated service that's tailored to you and your family's needs. They're going to be experts. They're going to be able to they're going to have the tools and the knowledge to keep your bike well maintained. Not only that, they'll also stock the commonly needed spare parts. So they'll be at the ready when you need new tires or need new brake pads. And if it's anything beyond that, that's sort of a proprietary specific part for the bike that you own, they're going to have access and ability to source it for you. They're going to develop a service plan over time based on how you use your bike. At our shop, we generally recommend minimal annual service. And then we do have customers who, of course, use their bike day in, day out, through all 4 seasons of Chicago weather. And in those cases, we tend to see them more frequently, possibly twice a year, or if not, a little bit more than that. They're going to be there to help with future accessory options as your family grows and your needs change. That could be the number of kids, the size of the kids, how the seating is configured on the bike. And maybe it's helping you get into the next cargo bike based on what your needs are. I'm saying all these steps and what those are, and you might be sitting here saying, boy, I don't have a shop like yours or the other dedicated cargo bike shops in my town. We can still be a resource for you. We still want to help. For example, you can pick up the phone, give us a call. We can discuss your needs. We can provide our best advice on how to approach a remote cargo bike search. That might include determining, hey, there actually is a shop not too far from you that does sell this good quality brand of cargo bike, and help steer you towards them. It might potentially be looking into other options, whether it's sourcing, say, a secondhand bike that's accessible for you, or if possible, shipping a bike. In the instance of shipping a bike, it's really important to understand that ultimately service is going to be required through a local bike shop that's both capable and willing to do the work on the bike. So in those cases, my advice is to establish a relationship with that local shop. And heck, you might even be that very first cargo bike customer for that shop and help convince them that cargo bikes are something that they should offer. So at the end of the day, I would just close with, the only regrets I've ever heard from a customer of ours is that they did get a cargo bike sooner. So that's my presentation. Thank you for listening. And Luke, am I passing it back to Ellie now?
That's
Yep.
right. On to Ellie.
Yeah, I'll take it from there. Thank you, John, and thank you all to all our presenters. We're gonna have some time now for Q&A. And thank you for all the questions that have already been put in the chat. If you have additional questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat and we'll make sure we can answer as many as we can. To start, I'm going to hand it over back to John with the first question that we had earlier in the chat. In the US, I keep hearing about classes of e-bikes, class 1, 2, and 3. What exactly does that mean?
Sure, great question. In the case of class 1, we're talking about a pedal assist e-bike. And if you're not familiar with pedal assist, that means the propulsion of the bike is only activated by you pedal. So you are, simply the e-bike is activated not by some form of throttle pushing a button, but by pulling. So that's class 1 is pedalist with a maximum assisted speed of 20 miles per hour. Class 2 is also going to have the same 20 mile per hour maximum speed, but can be throttle based. Usually it would be a mix of pedal and throttle assist. And then class 3 is going to be what the high speed e-bikes, and those have a maximum assisted speed of 28 miles per hour, but similar to class 1 are pedal assist only. So most commonly what you'll find through e-bike retailers like ours and the others here are going to be either class 1 or class 3.
Great, thanks, John. Our next question that I'll hand it over to Eva. All about front loaders. So what age can you start fitting kids in a front loader? And then kind of what are some of the things that you'll want to be thinking about when you're picking one out?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you should definitely consult your pediatrician, but a lot of front loaders, you can actually fit a car seat into the front of the bike. Urban Arrow sells an accessory that will work with Maxi-Cosi seats where you can just click that right in. Some parents are willing to start as early as newborn. But if you're not doing a car seat type setup, doing some sort of rear or front seat usually is 9 months or whenever you can fit a helmet on their little cute heads. And accessories too, like just go into your bike shop and tell them who you're going to be carrying around, how big your kids are. And then they'll help you find the perfect fit for your bike.
Awesome. Our next question that I'll give to Katharine is all about securing your bike as well as if insurance is a good option. So if there are tips for securing the bike when you're out and about, but then also if insurance is a good idea and any guidance on how to pick that out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned briefly in the presentation that some of the bikes do come with integrated locks. These are usually referred to as cafe style locks. They'll lock the wheel of the bike, but not lock the bike to anything at all. So, it just means that the bike is now immobile. Someone could still pick it up and put it into the flatbed of a truck, or I suppose even drag it away to someplace more private. We pair the cafe lock with this particular option with a chain lock that's really also then hooked up to the cafe lock. For Pittsburgh, this is acceptable for how most people are parking and using the bikes outside of school or work. I know there are some cities where you're going to be using a higher caliper of lock. Maybe it's a heavier chain. Maybe you're using an additional U-lock to lock other sections of the bike. And it really depends how long the bike is left out. If you work a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, like any other bike in any other theft situation, for someone who's plotting a more in-depth theft situation, regular locking timeframes make it easier for them. So you should just be aware, maybe park it in an area where there are cameras inside of a parking lot or in eyesight of somebody else, so that if somebody needs to use bolt cutters or angle grinders or some kind of force that will create a lot of sounds, a lot of commotion, that someone's going to try to intervene, right? They're going to say, looks like somebody's stealing a bike. And then outside of that, insurance wise, certainly there are third-party insurers for bicycles where when you buy the bike, you submit your receipts. And those tend to be outside of your standard homeowners or auto. Because these bikes are several $1,000s, a lot of people have policies through their homeowners or auto already that is suitable for this. And if you store it inside of your garage or inside of your home or even on your property, like your front porch, it's good to ask your insurance agent if the bike is covered in those instances. I'm going to reach out of you, maybe just to grab the chain lock if anybody's curious about those for the turn specifically. Mine's just sitting over here on the ground. Fern has a nice pouch that this stores in. I want to be different, I guess, to find a much sillier bag. But this lock is made by Avis. Avis makes great locks of all different varieties. I know that Kryptonite makes one that also works with this. The idea is that you loop it through whatever you're locking it to, the rack, probably not a tree. We can get into that if anyone likes. And then it plugs into the bike. So this is just easy and convenient for families or individuals that are using the bike for many stops. You know, you go to school, then you go to the store, then you pick somebody up. It's not just, it's the security, it's also the ease of use. I find that this is a super nice pairing in Pittsburgh for our theft levels, but ask your local bike shop. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Katharine. So a question now for Luke. Do these cargo bikes work well in the winter or on snow and ice?
Oh, great question here in Minnesota. So the reality is we have at least, I don't know, 25 customers with cargo bikes that get studded tires on their bikes. So that's kind of the key to using it in snow and ice, is having studded tires. I'm sure John could speak to this as well, being in the Midwest. There's very, very good studded tire options for the bikes. And I will say, I don't know how comfortable you are riding in the snow and ice, so it would depend on your own comfort level as to whether it makes sense for you or not, because you are putting your loved ones on the back of the car, or on the back of the bike frequently. And so there's a little bit of a concern there. And yet we absolutely have a lot of families that are using their cargo bikes year round. And that I showed that Storm Shield earlier. And yeah, that's kind of a all about keeping the kids warm when it's ridiculously cold outside. So I would say, yeah, but you got to deal with your own comfort level on that. Thanks.
Great. A question for Emily now. Any tips for practicing or managing? You were talking about a little bit about like the buildup of hauling additional weight with the loaded bike. So that was a question that came from your presentation. So any tips for, you know, in your first year of riding, how you kind of work to build that up?
I mean, I really think just practicing, and I guess I tried to ramp into it a little bit, doing some rides with not all 3 kids, starting with some shorter rides, really just the more reps that we could get out. And yeah, the strength just kind of built up over time. When you're getting it to bring kids around, it's hard to do too much ramping up because you have the kids, so you need to get them somewhere. And then I think actually getting into the longer rides was really helpful, because I just having all that time on the bike gave me so many reps of all the things that I needed to get smoother at, with the stopping and the gear shifting. So I guess that's not too specific, but yeah, I think just getting out there on it. And at first I had the kids always sit in exactly the same spot, and it would kind of throw me off if I, you know, put the heavier one in a different spot. But then as I got more comfortable, they can kind of sit wherever, and I can adjust very quickly. But trying to to keep things consistent at first, so you get used to that and then expand from there. That was helpful too.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. We'll answer just a few more questions, and then we'll share the raffle results. So just a couple more. We don't want to keep folks too long, but there's a question about what are the motor types, hub versus mid-drive, kind of what is preferred. And John, if you want to take that one, that'd be great.
Sure. Again, I'd say most commonly you're going to find mid-drive motors from manufacturers, primarily from Bosch, in some cases from Shimano, sold at dealers like myself or the others presenting today. That is where essentially the motor it's part of the drivetrain, and it's connected with where you pedal in the middle part of the bike. And I like to explain it like the way the mid-drive works is it's so natural, and it's basically like turning the volume up on a stereo when you go from eco to tour to sport and then turbo, and it's just amplifying your pedaling. So when you're in as high as turbo, it's going to multiply each time you pedal by about four times what you're doing, at the same time feeling very, very natural. And hub motors are, as you could imagine, located either in a front wheel hub or in a rear wheel. They're out there, but again, not commonly found on bikes sold through bike shops. In most cases, hub motors, from my understanding, would be more in the cadence sensing type of e-bike. And as a quick explanation, you have torque sensing is where there's essentially the pedals are feeling how much pressure you're putting on them and giving the pedal assist sort of in correlation with how you're pedaling. Whereas cadence really just cares about that the crank is rotating, doesn't really care about how hard you're actually pedaling. It's different in the sense that I think you may not feel as connected to the pedal or to the drivetrain on the cadence sensing. So again, I'd say in most cases, if you're going through a shop like us, you're going to find mid-drive as your option. The hub drives are going to be more on either DIY systems or direct-to-consumer type systems, and that's the general gist of it.
Great. Thanks, John. One final question that we'll answer right now is, and I'll throw it out to anyone in the group that wants to answer. Can families looking to buy a cargo bike benefit from any sort of e-bike rebate programs in their areas? And if there's any resources available on that. So I'm not sure which areas exactly have those. So if anyone wants to take that, that'd be great.
I would like to speak towards Minnesota, and then if anyone else has one, I will say in Minnesota, there's a lot of anticipation about a rebate, which just some information just went out last week, and the way we found out about that information is there's a bike advocacy group called Bike MN. Bike MN put out a blog post with some information about the rebate that's going to happen in 2024 in Minnesota. And mind you, no one's going to get a bike, and July 1st would be the earliest that will happen. A lot has to happen before then. At a certain point, there will be an application for bike shops. So it's not a given that we would be part of it, but we would expect to be a part of it. So we will be applying for it. And then a month later, they'll start taking applications from the buyers. And we just go from there. So at this point, being that it's a brand new system, we're all just there's not a lot of information out, but I would say watch Bike MN if you're a Minnesotan. And there is a rebate that will be happening in July. And I would definitely recommend everybody try and apply. I know that there's going to be more people applying than there's going to be money going out. So anyway, that's anybody else, Chicago, Portland, Pittsburgh, anybody got a rebate?
This is less about like a city, state, or government rebate. But for a lot of our customers, they actually get incentives through work for transportation. So if the company's not paying for parking, maybe they're paying for some tune-ups. Some people have used that for purchasing e-bikes as well.
Awesome. Thank
Are
you
we-
everyone for the question. Oh, yeah, Eva, did you
Sorry,
want to jump
Ellie.
in? Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to say, if you look in the chat, I put in a spreadsheet from Portland-based Trek. They have every state and province of Canada put in there with sort of the existing incentives. So check that. I know in Oregon we keep trying. So please, if you're interested in your state handing out money for e-bikes, write to everyone and anyone you can to encourage them. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for the questions. And I know that there are a few questions that weren't able to get answered in the chat. We will find a way to either answer a few of those via email, follow-up, or on our social media channels. So be sure to be following Perennial Cycle, Clever Cycles, Kindred Cycles, and JC Lynn Bike Co. because we'll put a little bit more follow-up there after the fact. Thank you all so much for being in attendance. We want to end with a short raffle and a big shout out to Urban Arrow and Turn who help provide some of these. So we have 2 Urban Arrow shirts that we're raffling off, and we'll contact you after the fact to get you these prizes. The first winner is, these were randomly selected during the Zoom meeting. So Zach Barnes is our first winner of the Urban Arrow t-shirt. Joshua Segal is our second winner of the Urban Arrow t-shirt. There's 1 Urban Arrow hoodie. Enrico won that. 2 Turn shirts, one by Beth Thomas and Anna Moore. And our final prize is 1 Weathertop bag, and that was won by Virginia Ferguson. So congrats to all our winners. And then thank you all for joining us today. We are really thrilled to have such a wonderful turnout for a great day of chatting e-bikes, cargo bikes, and we'll follow up with more in the future. Yes, and our one plug from Perennial, we have a cargo bike skill share coming up on this Thursday, 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time, and that's going to be cargo bike riders kind of sharing their expertise. So similar to what Emily shared with us today. So if you already have a cargo bike, great. If you're still looking to get one, it's another opportunity to learn a little bit more from people who are actively riding and kind of sharing tips and tricks. So definitely look for that on our social media channels. Yeah. Thank you all and have a good rest of your day.
Audio.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Katharine.